Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be doing the Raspberry Pi 3 A+. Let's get straight into it. Okay, so the Raspberry Pi has a full-blown HDMI output with a micro USB for power input. It is 5.1 volts, 2.5 amps. It also has the obvious aux cable for output for sound, but you can't get off the HDMI if you're doing video. Also, it does have a neat feature for display output. You obviously need to use the Raspberry Pi display, and a camera. Also, the Raspberry Pi camera would be needed. Also, oops, almost dropped it there. These things are fairly small, it's like a credit card size. The USB 2.0 output, input output data transfer, and this one does have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and of course the full-blown GPU output, 24 pins that you can use. Yep. Alright, moving on to what's needed to get you started. You will need to use obviously some SD card. Recommend something above an 8 gig or so, preferably a 16 or 32 preferably. I'm using a 16 and an 8 depending on what I'm doing. And of course you'll need something to connect it to your computer. My laptop luckily has a SD card reader, and then you might need to have USB, and in my case a USB hub, so you can attach more. You'll need at least 4. You'll see why later. And for this video I'm going to be showing you it on an SD. So we're going to actually be booting from the SD. This is not something standard on the Raspberry Pi. You have to rewrite the boot to be able to do this. And to do that, I'll make another video on that. But it's fairly simple. You just take the SD card and you alter it from standard Raspbian OS, and you tell it to boot from the SSD or any other USB device. Right, so I'm gonna jump us onto the Raspberry Pi and get into the operating system. Also, sorry, you can also have a fan, preferably for cooling. I won't be doing that because it's not necessary for what we're doing now. We're not going to be pushing this thing too far, and it can actually boot off an M.2 as well. So that's a neat feature. You'll obviously need to have an M.2 converter to USB somehow. Alright, so let's get it all set up and running. Alright, we are now booting. You should see the display now. We are booting off of the actual SSD. There we go, that Raspberry Pi boot screen. We all know that. So there you go. Just running off there. I am actually running off of the TV itself for power, so it is getting the full amount of power. We could check there from the little light. We see that turns off, then we know it's not getting enough power. So it is running fine. It's happy. I'm doing this because that's probably what most people are going to be using this Raspberry Pi for, running something like LibreOS or something. For us, we are going to be doing it testing on the Raspbian OS. Sorry for the wobble unstable video. So this is the OS, and it seems to be running perfectly fine. We do have Wi-Fi, and we are going to go and test the browsing capabilities. Of course, I actually have already done this, but sorry for the unstable. Yeah, it's a bit too much for the Raspberry Pi to actually do recording of the screen and to run anything really for this Raspberry Pi. So I'm gonna have to try and stable and do stuff, and it already seems like it's lagging a bit. Oh. Alright, it seems to have started up going, moving around a bit. There we go, we got some movement. That was about 5-10 seconds, so not the fastest. And we're going to just try and check out something like just general browsing. It can't do YouTube. That's a definite no. So we're just going to type in games there. It didn't even show the typing, I don't think. I'm not sure. There we go. And I can look around a bit. I can do that. Perhaps let's go to images. There we go. It does do the normal browsing a bit. And just for demonstration, I think let's try and actually load YouTube. Sorry, I'm using a tiny keyboard. So let's try to do that. It's taking a fair time. I think we're going to have to go to all for this. Yeah, so this gives a good idea of what its performance is. It's not overclocked. Not going to try and overclock it because I don't think most people are gonna buy a full package of the Raspberry Pi and with the fan, of course. It doesn't actually increase performance that much. I have tested, and the performance increase is minuscule, so it's not really worth doing. And I think it's safe to say it's stuck now. This does happen with the trying to browse. So I'm just gonna pause the video and get us on to the next test. Alright, so here we are back on our desktop. For this test, we're going to just be testing video. So I've actually got a small movie for us to try out. I think it's called Leap from 2016. Let's just try playing that a bit. As we can see, the actual file system and everything runs really nicely. So I'm just going to jump around in the video a bit, see how that goes. So it can do full HD fairly well. I don't think it's safe to say it's a full 60 FPS, but it does look fairly good. Every now and then we can see there's a small frame skip, but otherwise I think it's safe to say that this is really good for watching videos in the lounge or wherever else with the family. So yeah, that's really good. And that's it for this video. For more information on the Raspberry Pi, do check out their website and perhaps consider the B+. Recommend the A+ more for doing other things regarding coding and other stuff. That's pretty much what I use it for, coding. And otherwise, runs really nicely, works well, and thank you. Bye. Subscribe and like.